What's up, guys? It's been a hot minute since I made a video. So today I'm going to be fan casting mainly characters, but on specific characters who I think should play them for Phase 4 of the MCU. Obviously, I don't know anything more than anyone else does about which characters are actually going to appear, so I'm literally making a bucket list of characters I would love to see in one form or another, and whether or not I think there's real potential behind introducing them as like a lead character rather than as like a cameo or something. So yeah, let's get straight into this because we've got a lot to cover. Alright, so while I was looking online to try and get like a short list of sort of the A list of the B list, as it were, of who should come into the MCU, I noticed that there were a couple of characters that were part of teams or could become parts of teams, and so I've structured my list to sort of show how those particular teams could come through. So I'm going to sort of just start it off with some, I got 6 just randoms here, and then we'll get into more sort of team based and who could be on particular teams. So the first one on this list is Spider-Woman. She was originally believed to be a Netflix Phase 2 character, but obviously considering Disney Plus is now becoming a thing, the whole future of whether or not we're going to get Spider-Woman is up in the air. Had she come out, the idea was that she was going to, as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. herself, she was going to be fighting Madam Hydra, who is also known as Viper, and considering that she was speculated as part of the Netflix shows, having a villain named Viper when Luke Cage is going up against Cottonmouth and Bushmaster, both of which are also names of snakes, it seemed very likely that the Serpent Society was going to come out, and considering that the Hydra is literally a snake-headed lake monster in Greek mythology, the Serpent Society definitely seems like something that Hydra would have had. And so after Black Widow, another spider-themed hero, dumps all of the S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra files onto the internet for everyone to see, it definitely seems like they would have gone from being Hydra to being the Serpent Society, meaning that if we get something along the lines of Spider-Woman and she is facing Madam Hydra, Viper, it definitely seems likely that her series could follow sort of the remnants of Hydra, and therefore fighting various members of the Serpent Society, which to me is very cool. It allows like Nick Fury and forgotten her name, Maria Hill, a little bit more screen time because we just love them so much, while also allowing us to see how S.H.I.E.L.D. rebuilds itself, and how it forms a sort of pro-registration superhero team, because we've got to also remember that that's a thing now, pro-registration and anti-registration. So the Secret Avengers is a thing that could happen, but I'll get to that later on. She-Hulk was another option that I saw that was particularly popular. I definitely think this would be better suited to sort of a serial TV show format, considering that for the most part she's the Hulk, but like also a lawyer sort of thing. And so yeah, so her origin is that she gets a blood transfusion from Bruce, which, you know, gives her the gamma radiation blood, allowing her to like increases her strength and stuff similar to the Hulk, but she is able to keep her form similar to how we saw Bruce being able to do it in Endgame, which means that having set that up, it seems more likely that he's you know, if she's willing to be like, yeah, no, that's going to save my life, do it, I know what it means, he's willing to be like, okay, well cool, I've learned how to control it, I'll teach you. It definitely seems like she'll be able to sort of come in and take a step up sort of thing. Plus it means that we can basically have a Hulk film in the MCU that Universal technically doesn't have control over, because I'm not entirely sure if She-Hulk is under their ownership of Hulk. The next four were not as popular, but still sort of fit the random sort of just generic Avengers members and don't fit into any of the other categories that I saw. The first one is White Tiger. Now I'd actually like to see the female version, sort of in the same way that we got Scott Lang as Ant-Man with sort of the mentor who was the former Ant-Man. I'd like to see that sort of thing repeated, but it being that he's just too old to be a superhero anymore, and so he's sort of passed it down to his daughter to continue the mantle. This version of White Tiger is in, if you've seen, trying to think of it now, I think it's Ultimate Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man or something like that on Disney XD, where Spider-Man's fighting alongside Nova and Iron Fist and Luke Cage. The other member out of the 5 of them on that show is the female White Tiger. So it's not like she's completely unknown to audiences, and being that she is a younger character, she does sort of help lead into one of the groups that I'll address later on, which is the Young Avengers, which has a couple of very strong characters for it, but I can definitely see her sort of being part of that, which would be kind of cool. Sort of like, I don't know, maybe they could cross that over with the Runaways or something somehow, who knows. Next on the list is Kazar, who is a savage man that lives in the Savage Land, which is basically, if you've seen Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs, it's pretty much that, and he is Buck from Dawn of the Dinosaurs. The Savage Land is where all the dinosaurs live, and then it's covered by a bit of ice, which is the continent of Antarctica. So yeah, basically he is a jungle man that lives in the jungles of Antarctica. And it'd be really cool to see that come around, because then we might also be able to get references to lesser known characters like Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy, who I still still believe was a sort of starting point for the concept behind Disney's Good Dinosaur. I still believe that is the case. It is about an intelligent dinosaur and his less than intelligent Neanderthal friend. And Devil Dinosaur is a T-Rex that can speak, and he has a Neanderthal monkey boy that rides around on his back. So I'm seeing some similarities, especially since they actually talk to T-Rexes in that movie. I digress. Still, I think it would be kind of cool to see Kazar and Shanna the She-Devil and Zabu. I think that'd be kind of cool. Actually, now I think about it, I've just realised that some of the characters on this lead to a completely new section that's not even on my list. I'll get to that at the end of the video. The next on the list is Black Knight. He's the Black Knight from Arthurian legend. Basically, he uses the ebony blade, which is like corrupted with dark magic or something, to protect the world. But it's to sort of constantly fight against the pull of like the dark forces hidden in the sword, sort of thing. He also happens to fly around on a Pegasus, which we know exists because Valkyrie had one. And he has a energy projecting lance that he uses while flying on said Pegasus. So that could easily just be explained away as some Stark tech that he, developed for, I don't know, live action role playing in an Iron Man suit. There's ways they could explain it, I'm sure. But Black Knight is definitely an interesting one, considering other considering other characters and people and stuff on this list. Black Knight definitely seems like an easy shoe-in for an MCU version of the Team Excalibur, which also has Captain Britain, Shadowcat, Nightcrawler, and I think it was like Psylocke or something, who is... I know we've seen Psylocke in live action. Psylocke is Captain Britain's twin sister, but he himself is not a mutant. Something along those lines. But he's like worked very closely with a lot of mutants, and his actual twin sister is one. So yeah, being sort of the protectors of Britain sort of thing makes him very easy for fitting into that. Excuse me. And then last but not least on the list is Wonder Man. Now that presumably Vision is dead, because I'm assuming the horribly named WandaVision, I'm assuming it's going to be sort of their adventures while trying to avoid being caught by the UN after Civil War, while they're stealing moments here and there, sort of thing. Because unless they bring him back and it's like, oh yeah, no, we managed to fix his mind, despite the fact that, I mean, they do have the Mind Stone, or had the Mind Stone, so they could have... the first episode of that I'm expecting to be pretty complicated as to how they explain either how he's back or when it's set. But with him dead, and assuming that WandaVision comes after, Wonder Man seems like a very he has a relationship of sorts with her in the comics, because one of the, I don't know if it's Age of Ultron or something, but one of the comics where Ultron's like the villain that they're focusing on, he like collects his family together, which includes Ant-Man, who in the comics is his creator, and Janet Van Dyne, who he sees as his mother and his father. He gets Joe Castor, who is he created to be his wife, who then defected to the Avengers to stop him. And then he gets, I believe he created a Vision as well in the comics, who also defected against him. And so as his son, and then Wanda as his like daughter-in-law, and then Wonder Man, who Vision's mind is based off, and it gets complicated. But what I'm basically saying is Wonder Man seems like he'd be an easy fit for something along those lines. Plus, Nathan Fillion has already cameoed in movie posters that you literally have to pause Volume 2 to see, as Simon Williams, who is the civilian identity of Wonder Man. So it'd be really cool to see Nathan Fillion actually be able to use the ionic abilities of Wonder Man in a movie. That'd be cool. I'd like to see that. And so considering that it is in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, that brings me to my first little section, which is characters that could appear in Volume 3 that I think should, and would therefore sort of carry on the Guardians legacy sort of thing. Because obviously the team that we've had, as it's been teased in the post-credit scenes of Volume 2, they were not the original Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. They're actually the second variation. So characters that I think should appear in Volume 3, Adam Warlock is pretty much a shoo-in. He was teased to be in it, and I sort of see him coming in to enact the Sovereign's revenge, only to sort of see that, you know, Peter Quill is half celestial, and therefore that part of him is so beyond perfection, and that the human side of him that is faulted is sort of counterbalanced evenly, making him this sort of chaotic perfection in a way, which will only go to heighten rather Quill's ego. We know that. He'll see that Rocket has been cybernetically enhanced to basically become the peak of his particular species form. Gamora, assuming she's in it, will be, you know, she's the most dangerous woman in the galaxy, and so he'll see that she's, you know, literally the peak of physical existence, so to speak, and so that will sort of satisfy his like perfection thing. And yeah, so obviously on and on, each of the Guardians will sort of prove to him in their own way that they are their own version of perfection sort of thing, each being a different species, obviously, because I kind of see Adam as having more understanding for life in general, sort of in the same way Vision did originally. See him having the same sort of thing, but just, you know, being an actual fleshy being rather than an android. Other characters that I am hoping and that I've seen on people's wish lists online that should be in Volume 3 are Moondragon and Quasar, not only because Marvel's going to announce sometime soon who their first openly LGBT character is, and my money is on Moondragon, because of her relationship with Quasar, who incidentally is Phyla-Vell, the daughter of Mar-Vell, who we already know also existed. So that helps sort of make space a bit smaller, considering that Thor's now with the Guardians of the Galaxy after Endgame. So the only other spacefaring hero that they have that isn't in some way tied to it is Captain Marvel. So if they bring in Moondragon and Phyla-Vell as Quasar, that ties that in all nicely together, and so then we have like a Space Avengers sort of thing, which would be pretty cool. And then obviously Nova being another actual human, other than an Asgardian or a Xenobari or a space raccoon or a living tree. Another actual human on the team, for whether it's for comedic purposes with Quill trying to like converse the way he did with the Avengers in Infinity War, or whether it's to sort of make round at his sort of like human side of the family story arc, assuming there is anything left there. I still think Nova would be pretty cool. Plus, depending on who they get for that, whether they go with Richard Rider or Sam Alexander, that then takes us into the Young Avengers. Moondragon could potentially also do that as well, considering that she is the daughter of Drax. And if she is, I see her getting, in the same way that I really don't want to get too much into my predictions for Guardians 3. I think that's its own separate thing, but I definitely want to talk about it because I have a lot of thoughts. So I will probably make that at some point, if not in the next month, then definitely the month after. So yeah, hit the subscription button and the notification bell if you want to see that, because I'm very keen to talk about it. It's actually top of the list of things that I want to talk about if I can get my podcast up and running soon. It's literally top of the list is my predictions for Volume 3, so I'm very excited for that. Anyway, Young Avengers. The 4 characters that I saw that fit this, that people wanted to see, were Kamala Khan, who is inspired by Miss Marvel. She's also, she's a shapeshifter, so it could be, being that she was inspired by Miss Marvel and that she's a shapeshifter, that sounds a lot like the little Skrull girl that Monica was talking to. Even Monica herself, if she is able to get her powers from the comics as like a teenager sort of thing, that'd fit as well. Although, no, she'd be sort of, no, she'd be about 30s now I think about it. No, I was just trying to think about how old she would be, assuming she, but even if she did get snapped, it doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, Kamala Khan, Hawkeye was one, and the reason I have Hawkeye in Young Avengers, despite him being one of the original Avengers, is that I see it being his daughter Lila taking on the sort of Kate Bishop female younger Hawkeye, and sort of continuing the family name, so to speak, in the Young Avengers, and knowing that her dad had to, you know, give up superheroing because of the Accords. She'd be very pro Accords, wanting to do everything the way it should be done, sort of thing, which could come into clash against Stature, who throughout Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp was very sort of on the nose about being Scott's sidekick, and considering that the first Ant-Man pretty much opened up with him getting out of prison, going, and then during Ant-Man and the Wasp, him sort of ditching his tracker to go and save the world. Playing by the rules isn't really that family's style, and considering how much Cassie looks up to Scott as Ant-Man, I definitely see pro-registration Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, and Stature, Cassie Lang, having some pretty big clashes, which, as far as the team is concerned, these two being ones that come from already established members of the Avengers, sort of makes for a Captain America, Iron Man like level clash. And then last on this list was Miles Morales, who I can see being probably about the same age as these guys. If not Miles, then probably Peter Parker, considering that he's still in high school at this time. But we'd still have a version of Spider-Man, a legacy Ant-Man, a legacy Hawkeye, and then a legacy Captain Marvel. And so you'd really only need two others from the original team, so maybe the Sam Alexander version of Nova to give them sort of that sort of space element that Thor brought in, and then just trying to think who else could possibly MCU be in that. I mean, they could introduce Wiccan or Hulkling. Hulkling is a Skrull as well, and if we go with that, then obviously the Secret Invasion would be a storyline that Phase 4 onwards would follow, or at least have a movie the same way Civil War did, where they realised that members of all these different superhero teams are Skrulls. Continuing on, however, the Midnight Suns is one that I saw a lot of interest in, actually. Characters like Ghost Rider, Blade, Moon Knight, Hellstorm, the son of Satan, and Man-Thing, who's had a couple of references throughout the MCU, seem like pretty strong ones. I think they've already done Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, in which they also focused on the Darkhold, which is an item that the Midnight Suns sort of fight against or protect or something, but in that season it's established that there's a cult that sort of follows it, so these guys could go and, try and fight the cult, I guess. Plus also having Ghost Rider and the actual son of the devil would definitely bring in someone like Doctor Strange, or even if the X-Men manage to appear, someone like Magic, who is able to tap into the Limbo realm in order to fight Mephisto himself. Would be kind of cool. But as I said, Blade I think is already on the under consideration. Moon Knight seems to be within the top 10 of everyone's top 25, and other than that, they all seem pretty. plus they've got the whole supernatural thing, so it's like Justice League Dark almost sort of thing. And if they decide to bring in someone like Doctor Strange as well to sort of be like, yeah, no, these guys are all fighting against supernatural forces rather than actual physical forces, as it is explained in Doctor Strange, then they could definitely call themselves the Dark Avengers and just take a complete MCU detour with a name from an actual team, which is supervillains posing as Avengers, and make it Avengers that fight against supernatural forces, which would be kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. The Illuminati is another one, and it does also bring in characters that have only recently joined Marvel's ownership. So some characters that already exist would be Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Bruce Banner, Hank Pym, and Black Bolt. However, in this instance, I would like to see Black Bolt get recast as Vin Diesel. We already have Vin Diesel's voice. Vin Diesel wanted to play Black Bolt when it was going to be a movie, so if they make an Inhumans movie still, because the series was not a reworking of what the film would be, and then that would allow us all to just forget that the series even exists. Then yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. Plus you'd be able to have cool little references where, like, Groot could be talking while Black Bolt's in the room, and he'll say, "I am Groot," and then Black Bolt will just like nod his head, and no one else understands what's going on because no one else that speaks Groot's in the room. And it could just be a nice little way of being like, yeah, that's his voice and that's his face. You just saw them on screen at the same time, sort of thing. Anyway, other characters that would be in the Illuminati if it became sort of like the new Avengers team, if we're going with like an all-men team, which I know Marvel's trying its very best to be diverse, and it's great, but if we're going with an all-men team, it would be Captain Britain, Namor, and then from the X-Men, Professor X and Beast, and then Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, which then obviously brings me into teams. Now, teams I will talk about completely in a separate video, because for this I will actually properly fan cast actors and stuff, and then I'll bring in other characters like Namor and Captain Britain, that I have actual people that I want to play them. But the teams are the X-Men, the Eternals, which we know is happening, but I don't yet know who they're casting for that. The Fantastic Four, which I'm actually really keen to see what Marvel Studios does with them. The Inhumans, assuming they do a remake and actually make the film. Obviously I just said that I want Vin Diesel as Black Bolt, so I've got some thoughts on who the others could be. And then the Thunderbolts, which I see as being very similar actually to the Suicide Squad, not just in the fact that in both cases from the comics they are villains that the government has worked for them in return for shorter sentences to fight other worse villains. But also in the case of, in this regard, for Thunderbolts, you could have Thaddeus Ross, whose nickname is Thunderbolt, lead the team as he was the one that presented the Accords to the Avengers, and therefore they would just get nicknamed the Thunderbolts because they are Thunderbolt Ross's team of villains. Very easily explained, don't even have to bring Red Hulk into it, although Red Hulk being brought in would be amazing. And it would also allow us to find out what happened to all the villains that managed to survive the MCU. Because I was looking at this the other day, and out of like the 22 films or whatever, a lot of the villains actually die. Obadiah Stane died, Whiplash died. I was trying to keep it Earth-based as well, so none of the Thor villains really matter, although the Destroyer gets destroyed, Laufey dies, Malekith dies, Hela dies, Surtur dies, like all of his enemies die, except Loki, unless you're including the fact that his neck gets snapped by Thanos is how he currently is. But if you're a Loki fan, you're like, no, but he escaped during Endgame, and in that case, then he's still alive, and is just now an anti-hero. A lot of the heroes, a lot of the villains die, basically, is what I'm getting at. So the only ones that really are still around are the two out of the Incredible Hulk, Abomination and Leader, and then obviously Thunderbolt Ross himself. And then from Captain America, we've got George Batroc and Helmut Zemo. And then you've got to go into other characters like Ant-Man, where Ghost could technically be a SHIELD operative now, so she could be working in like an all-women's team with Spider-Woman. Would be kind of cool. And she'd sort of fill the same role as what Vision did for the most part, in being an infiltrator, and able to sort of pass through things. Assuming she has control of her powers now, would be kind of cool. The team wouldn't be very big unless you went and got the real Mandarin, who is apparently still out there somewhere, or some other villains that haven't yet been brought into it, but could just kind of be like low-level criminals that got some of Vulture's tech, because obviously he was selling that in Homecoming, so it could be that, you know, like SHIELD and the government and whatever have rounded all these criminals with, you know, laser guns up, and now we've got like the living laser or whatever. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to leave it there. This video is getting pretty long at this point. I definitely have a lot more thoughts on the subject of what could happen in Phase 4. Like I said, I'm hoping to start my podcast very soon, because a lot of this is going to be talked about on that. But yeah, I will keep you guys in the loop as to its progress. Again, if you want to see more content, hit the subscription button and the notification bell. If you'd like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have thoughts about anyone I didn't mention, or want to pick my brains about my exact thoughts about characters I did mention, let me know in the comment section down below. I will reply to you guys. I check my comments at least once a week, at bare minimum. So I will definitely respond to you guys in the comment section down below there. You can check out all my social media links in the description as well. And yeah, other than that, the team that I realized that I had a lot of characters that could potentially be part of another team from the comics is the Pet Avengers, because we'd have Zabu from Khazar, we'd have Lockjaw from the Inhumans, we'd have Lockheed, Kitty Pryde's dragon from the X-Men, which means that the only characters you'd really be missing are Butterball from Speedball, Throg, which is the frog version of Thor, and then if you wanted to chuck in two other notable ones now, one from the MCU, one from Sony, you would have Spider-Ham and Howard the Duck, and you would have a purely animal version of the Avengers running around. And human laws don't equivalent to animals, so they would be able to actually go and do these things. Plus, if you really wanted, you could bring in the dinosaur from the Runaways that has a psychic link with the little girl. Done. Pet Avengers. Let's make a movie. But no, I mean, it could be kind of cool as an MCU animated film, maybe. It's sort of like a little pocket dimension that's animated. Or maybe they'll do something like that on Disney Plus. Who knows? But yeah, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, guys, night A2. I'll catch you later.